What's a secret from your profession that everyone should probably know? Before we start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. I wish you a pleasant viewing experience. Story 1. Licensed massage therapist. We are genuinely not judging any person's body. After the first few massages in our career, we literally only see your body as groups of muscles. I hear so often about people not going for massage because of the way they feel about their body. I wish this massage secret wash would be shared far and wide. Story 2. I work for the Department of Labor in our state. Yeah, there's quite a few corrupt employers who will not pay their workers, close up shop, then reopen under a different name, or fraudulently put all their assets under someone else's name. Answer. My old boss did this. Before running the restaurant I worked at, he was a plasterer, and he has over 10 plastering businesses under his name, because he would get payments up front and then just disappear, change business names, and do it again. Me and a bunch of people took his to court for loss of wages at the restaurant, and he got forced to pay $300 in damages for both workers and suppliers who were owed money. Sadly, I never got my $2,000 back, and last I saw he was back plastering, somehow not in jail. Story 3. On a good note, the secret ID, like people to know, is that anesthesia as a field is incredibly safe. We get super sick patients through surgery every day. Young, healthy people, you'd almost have to try to make something go wrong to have a bad outcome. The substances and safety monitors are so much better than 20 years ago. We are really good at putting people to sleep and waking them up. You are safer in the OR than you are on the road driving to the OR statistically. Answer. I had hernia surgery earlier in the year, and the anesthetic made me feel like I'd been teleported. There was no sensation of going under and coming to. It was just one moment chatting to the nurse and anesthetist, then bam, recovery ward chatting to a different nurse. So instantaneous, I didn't even register. It was a different person for a couple sentences. Story 4. I work in prison and see a lot of people sentenced for causing a passing or serious injury while driving tipsy who otherwise don't have a remarkable criminal background. You think of prison and you think substances, violent crimes, etc. But this is one of those crimes that can take you from being an average Joe to a felon in an instant. So not a secret, but don't drink and drive, or text and drive. Story 5. Hospitality workers usually don't care as much as you care, but if you're kind to them, they can work magic for you. Answer. As a former hospitality worker, yeah, dude, it sucks that you got here at 10:30 p.m. and a room isn't ready for you because our housekeeping was understaffed and the 2 wedding parties all emptied out late today. Depending on how you play the next few sentences to me, you could get free drinks, lounge access, free meal, a nicer room, etc. But if you make it personal or insult me, you're getting a room at some point, and that's it. Just do not be a male body part at the front desk, and you'll be shocked at how much can be done for you. Eat it. For more fun facts, pilots were usually super nice because they'd be there for 10 hours between flights and didn't give a shoot besides having a bed and a bathroom. Flight attendants could go either way. Sometimes they were assholes just because they were in numbers. Sometimes they were getting shit-faced. The high-end repeat businessmen, think consultants who would stay there every weekend for 6 months or something, were also super nice 95 of the time, but they didn't brook any shoot and knew exactly what they couldn't request. They'd sometimes request the world in a really nice, non-urgent way. Meanwhile, Bridezilla's mom is going to make a huge deal about nothing. But that nothing is something so small that we're not able to solve it because of how much of an edge case it is. Story 6. I work at a vet clinic, and I got a few. Yes, your dog or cat needs the rabies vaccine. Rabies is transmissible to humans, and it's deadly. Yes, your pet can have fleas, even if they never go outside, or if your yard is fenced in, or if you live in a gated community. Fleas have no concept of property lines. Your local veterinarian is not always the best place to take the turtle you found on the side of the road. Many vet clinics don't see wildlife, and many don't see reptiles at all. Story 7. When we tell you we don't have any more of an item in the back, it's because we really don't have more in the back. Sometimes we don't even have a back at all. Story 8. You know how in movies, people take out an old rare book and immediately are wearing gloves to handle it? You don't actually need gloves to handle old books in rare special collections. Having freshly washed, dried hands is best practice. Why? Because when you wear gloves, it's more likely you may accidentally rip a page because you can't feel them as well as you can with bare hands. The only time we wear gloves is when handling artifacts, moldy items, poison books, arsenical usually. Check out the Winterthur Poison Book Project. And photographs. And they are not the cotton white gloves you see in media. Just a pair of nitrile gloves that fit well, Also, your old Bible is not as rare as you think it is, nor worth as much as you think it is. Same for your book collection. You'd be surprised how many people think the Bible they have is super rare when it's really not. The Bible is like the most printed book. We have hundreds of Bibles in our collections. Stop giving us Bibles. Answer: same for your book collection. We moved last year and I broke my dad's heart. He had been collecting fancy books for a long while and was so happy of his collection. When we're talking about moving, he thought about finally selling his collection. I pointed out how all of them had the words Reader's Digest on the cover or title page, and he didn't understand until I told him that they were all mass-produced and weren't worth much of anything. Showing him a few listings on eBay only made it sink in more how much he had whiffed on his little investment. Story 9. Rinsing your produce with just water knocks down 99 of the bacteria on it. It's the best thing you can do to prevent foodborne illness. Story 10. Pilot here. We're not flying the airplane unless we know it's safe. Not ever, ever. We're not interested in dying either. Story 11. When there's a fire, the only sprinkler that goes off is where the actual fire is. They don't all go off like in the movies. Story 12. Document everything. Don't rely on verbal recounting when you go to management at work. Document it, print it, and bring it with you. Just saying that you have documented something, especially when it's multiple things that all point to an issue, management is going to be a lot more cooperative. Sometimes because it shows initiative, calm consideration, and intelligence, but more often because you have the start of a legal case if things go poorly. Answer: I've had crazy managers that would straight up deny instructing something, so I'd have to attach their earlier emails constantly. Thankfully, I am the queen of receipts. It has also protected me from losing security deposits several times. I've literally stopped LLs from continuing their argument by saying, I have hundreds of pictures from the day I moved in and hundreds from the day I moved out. I am happy to send you them so you may see for yourself that I left my unit in possibly better condition than when I moved in. Lawyered. Story 13. The amount of waste that is created in order to fill stores like Walmart and Target with stupid novelty products should make you second-guess your buying habits. Answer: a friend once said that when buying a product, you should think about its end of life first, e.g., will you donate it, sell it, dispose of it, etc.? I now think this way about stuff I buy and try to only buy what I'll need or will definitely use. And also think about buying things that can be passed on to others when I'm done with them. If more people thought this way and acted accordingly, the world would be a better place. My wife and I will generally refer to those novelty or trinket stores as landfill shops. Story 14. It's incredibly dangerous to cut in front of a tractor trailer. We try to keep at least a 2.5-second follow distance because we aren't able to stop if anything happens suddenly on the road. My gross vehicle combination weight is usually at or around 100,000 lbs. It takes more than a football field length to stop. Story 15. Librarian here. If you come in to talk to us about book damage or call to give us a heads up that it's being return damage, we will be a lot more amenable to working with you about forgiving damage fines than if you return it and hope we don't notice. Story 16. Former fast food manager. Believe it or not, nobody is intentionally trying to screw up your order. We are generally making thousands of orders a day with constant pressure to be faster. Every once in a while, things go wrong or we miss something. We're happy to fix it if you bring it back, and even more so if you aren't a complete a-hole about it. Story 17. Always ask for a discount when you shop at a pawn shop. At least 20, they should be able to do that. Also, check dates. When an item has been there for over 6 months, they want to sell it. Story 18. We all talk about what shoot parents you are, if you are, and how much your kids suck because you are raising them to be mirror image assholes. Story 19. Most modern homes, residential construction, inskeaps, are built with the cheapest ingredients, and I'm not sure they'll last more than 30 years without requiring a substantial level of exterior refurbishing. Answer: lol. My favorite instance of this is when I was house hunting a few years back and viewed a new construction house that was supposedly 90 complete. Boy, was that a mistake. The $16K wood floor upgrade included a bunch of Home Depot 2FO moors being scraped to look like actual hand-scraped hardwood flooring. So basically, they were charging $16K for something that likely cost them a few $100 and what would likely turn to crap in a few years. People in real estate in general are the scummiest people alive. Story 20. Dental professional here. We can always tell if you floss or not. In most cases, it's very evident when someone has great oral hygiene and flosses, but some people can get away with skipping the floss, likely related to having good genetics. Story 21. Maybe not a big secret, but after 30 years as a therapist and clinical supervisor, almost everyone, excluding children, are their own worst enemy. Whatever struggle, issue, or problem you have, the solution starts with you doing something differently. But far too many people prefer to either blame others or are unwilling to change, or both. Kids and adolescents are often more amenable to change and to take responsibility for themselves than many adults. Second, that despite this, therapy has the same outcomes as most chronic physical health problems, typically between 40-60 positive outcomes for patients. And the reasons for unsuccessful outcomes are also the same. Unwillingness to make changes, especially lifestyle changes that lead to healthier outcomes. Doctor prescribes a medicine. It will only work if you take it. You and therapists develop a plan for change. It will only work if you try it, give it some time, and make adjustments when needed. Story 22. An appraisal of your home is literally and legally someone's opinion. Yeah, there are loose rules that apply, but within that framework, it can vary widely. Story 23. As a casino dealer, we are standing at the same table you're sitting at. We can absolutely hear you talking about all those sensitive, incriminating topics. As a nurse, we already know your medical history. You don't need to lie about addictions or embarrassing health issues. We aren't going to judge you over details. We need to do our job properly. Story 24. Airline ticket and gate agent. When we tell you we don't know why a flight is delayed or canceled, we really don't know. You often get updates on your app before we know there's a delay. We think the bag fees are exorbitant too. We don't make them. It's just our job to collect them. We want you to get on the plane as much as you want to be on it. It makes a lot of extra work for us to rebook. Story 25. Worked at outsourcing for 2 decades. If you knew the outdated programming, a lax report security, and general disdain for tech that the biggest financial institutions have for their data production, you'd stick your money in mattresses. Story 26. IT departments generally emphasize getting the product out the door to please the managers, rather than getting it right. Story 27. Prescription substances in America do not need to cost anywhere near what they do. Pharmaceutical companies waste money like nobody else. In most cases, the company is just charging the absolute maximum amount the market will bear. It's a moral dilemma I struggle with daily. Story 28. Software developers actually need time to write code. Keeping us locked in useless scrum ceremonies and endless meetings doesn't get your work done. Eat it. Just a fun fact, I calculated the past 5 months of meetings. Our dev team had an average of 29 hours of meetings per week. No, that's not a typo. No, management is not receptive to any kind of streamlining. Yes, I'm looking for a new job. Story 29. I work in materials testing for industries like automotive, aerospace, defense. Our secret, we don't fudge around. Specs are holy writ and will be followed. We fire people for cutting corners on paperwork. I once got dragged into a conference room and chewed out for 2 hours, not because I used equipment that was out of calibration, but because I was in the same room as someone who did. That person got suspended for a week without pay. We regularly get audited for compliance to standards and regs that are enforced internationally. Why? Because when people in my field cut corners, people die. Horribly. Edit. Almost forgot to add, falsifying documents in my line of work is actually a felony. Story 30. I don't know if it's really a secret, but when an animal shelter lists a dog as a certain breed mix, we are 100 guessing. We aren't even sure the breed we listed is accurate. A lot of doggy DNA doesn't show physically, and most breeds share their various physical features with other breeds, so it's actually incredibly difficult to identify without a DNA test. And those are far too expensive and impractical for a dog shelter. But if it looks like a husky and barks like a husky, it's probably a husky. I only mention it because I do see a fair number of posts of people being surprised their rescue isn't the breed that was listed. Story 31. A lot of us truckers suffer from soul-crushing depression, from loneliness, and speaking as an owner of my own truck. A lot of us are always one breakdown from losing everything. Story 32. Maybe not so much of a secret, but I whirl retail. My section alone generates like 5 people's worth of garbage for every restock, which is pretty often. So every time you're trying to find a plastic-free alternative at a store, remember that there's probably someone in that store right now throwing out 40x more trash. Oh, lol. That being said, always strive to reduce your garbage load. Answer. Worked in kitchens and had to explain the same thing to people who thought a place didn't blow through tons of plastic. When we need a pallet of 50 Alibis bags of flour, yeah, that's wrapped in like a football field of plastic. You know those bags of peeled garlic from Costco? Yeah, we use them too, but we use more of them than you. And what happens with a finished product? It's cater wrapped. Maybe that cookie dough needs to sit on the counter while I go and do something else. Guess I'll wrap that in plastic. And don't get me started on disposable gloves. I'll blow through at least half a box of those in one shift. Why is that? Well, if I'm handling eggs and my timer goes off to check an oven, I gotta remove those gloves in order to move around without contaminating everything around me. Same thing if I'm picking up trash from the ground. Otherwise, you're eating the bottom of my shoe. It's also good to remove gloves when you just finished handling an allergen and are moving to another task. Not to mention they break almost as much as cheap condoms. Story 33. Heavy equipment operators tend to be tired, surly, and addicted to at least a few things. It's genuinely good practice to just stay way the fudge away from any piece of heavy equipment. We love it when you're not around. Story 34. As an architect now retired, 50 of married couples who take on a major, like down to the studs, house remodel end up in divorce. Answer. A friend and her husband bought a house and tore everything out to the studs on both floors, except the living room and kitchen. The husband thought he could DIY all of it. He was working on his dissertation, but they were also just a few months away from having their first baby. Baby comes home to a house that thankfully had the nursery and upstairs bath done, but that was it. Any mention of the renovation, and you knew it was the sorest spot in the marriage. House continued in that state for years until they divorced. Story 35. As a hospital nurse, I've been asked more than once by doctors, okay, what do the other doctors usually do for that? Doctors who are willing to ask are the good ones. If you have a doctor that never admits they don't know something, we know they're one to stay away from. Story 36. Intimacy and relationship therapist here. The thing we cannot say but want to with maybe 50 of couples is just go get a divorce already. Story 37. You know how every movie about a profession gets that profession hilariously wrong. Well, I used to be a journalist, and most movies about journalism is pretty accurate. I think it's because whoever wrote the script probably wasn't a firefighter or bomb diffuser, but they probably were a journalist. Story 38. Painter here residential and commercial painting bids are almost always inflated. Never pay to hear a bid. They should always be free. And make sure to get multiple from different places. Unless you are requesting a unique service or an art mural, the material and labor costs are easily calculated per square feet of specific surfaces. Ask for an itemized bid if you feel the contractor is being shady. Any that give you pushback for an itemized bid aren't willing to put good effort into the project. Don't accept we don't do that when asking for itemized bids. It's a cop-out for poorly managed businesses. An industrial and commercial coating specialist edit, I seem to have upset the less diligent portion of the competitive painters of Reddit. Oops, silly me. Story 39. If you pay your kitchen staff enough to care enough about properly cleaning and maintaining the equipment in your restaurant, it'll last a whole lot longer. Story 40. Antibiotic resistance is a lot worse than most people know and could eventually result in an extinction level event. Answer. Essentially, this is what took out one of my first patients as a new nurse. There's only so many times they can treat infections until they get so bad antibiotics aren't working anymore. It wasn't because dude was asking for a SPAC every cough he had brain damage and had very little brain function and would get consistent infections from the various tubes helping to keep him alive. After so many years of pretty much being on constant antibiotics, his feeding tube site became infected and nothing worked for the infection, and he ultimately passed from it. TrekPeg FullyPeg for those who are interested. Story 41. Theater tickets are very expensive because making theater is very expensive. But if you have a local professional theater whose shows you're interested in, there's likely many opportunities to get free or discounted tickets. Volunteer ushers usually get to see shows for free. Look for pay what you can. Nights, sometimes it will be a certain night, or they might open up tickets to PWIC at a certain hour before the show to fill seats. Theaters post discount codes on their social media pages. They'll do specialty discount nights like previews, college night, etc. If you're a local library card holder, they might have passes you can check out to see shows for free. There's a handful of people working at theaters focused on getting the bills paid, so they do focus on ticket sales and donors. We love them and value them. But as a collective, everyone working at a theater wants full houses and for as many people to see a show as would like to see the show. Finding out a show you worked hard on is getting full houses is like heroin for people who know how to play zip zap zop. Story 42. Our field is being taken over by private equity. We work with kids with special needs. You'll get overworked analysts, overworked therapists with poor training and supervision, and your kids will suffer for it. Some things shouldn't be ran for profit. Also, there is some fraud in terms of users, There are agencies that train people to play up their kids' symptoms and use us as babysitters. This needs to be addressed as well, but it won't be see. There is profit to be made on both sides. Story 43. Most big companies that write their own internal software are one bad day away from entire systems going down and their public image shatter because the code is poorly implemented or the folks who developed it were laid off or left. Story 44. Go to freaking class. Even if you don't pay attention, you will accidentally learn. Don't skip, it doesn't work. Story 45. You don't have to top off your refrigerant Freon in your air conditioner every year. If someone is telling you that ask where it's leaking at, don't trust a plumber who bites their nails. Story 46. I worked for a large bank. My team's job was to figure out how many additional fees we could add before losing customers. Losing some customers was fine as long as we made it up in revenue. Story 47. Threatening violence won't get you released from a psych unit sooner. Our job is to help you not hurt yourself or others. Story 48. If you eat Bluebell ice cream, there is a solid chance rainwater seeped into the packaging and it was sent out anyway. Story 49. You know all those corporate emails and team Slack messages you think no one else can see? Sorry, we see them all. Same story with your browsing history. Answer, I used to do quality assurance for a call center. Basically, we'd select calls at random and review score them to make sure accurate and complete info was being given out to our clients. We could also see everything going on screen. On one memorable recording, the agent was busily writing what appeared to be a fairly raunchy novella while she helped the caller. Technically should have reported her, but she did everything right, promptly, politely, and completely for the caller, so I never said a word. It was a fun read though, LOL. Story 50. We do not psychoanalyze random people that we meet in social settings, or acquaintances, or even close friends. Our parents, sibs? Yes, we very much do diagnose them in our heads. Story 51. Tugboat captain pushing barges on the rivers. Every one of those tugboats is being steered by a very bored pilot who is looking at their phone 95 of the time. Maybe even doom-scrolling Reddit. They glance up every 20 seconds or so, then right back to their phone. If you're a recreational boater out there, stay out of the way. Do not assume they see you because they do not. They're on their phone. I'm shocked more weekend warriors don't get run over. Story 52. It's remarkably easy to become a best-selling author. It's a simple trick of gaming the market, edited to elaborate since a lot of people are asking. 1, there are multiple lists that authors aim for. The two big ones being USA Today and New York Times. USA Today is easier to get onto because it counts ebook sales, whereas NYT does not. Publishers often offer various exclusive benefits to pre-orders to drive week 1 sales, which is crucial for list placement. Think exclusive content, swag, etc. 2. Publishers sometimes bulk buy thousands of copies of a book, which they then report to the lists as bona fide sales. These books are then trashed. 3. Publishers will partner with various organizations, corporate, educational, to bulk buy books, which appear as authentic sales to the lists. 4. Publishers will pay bookstores to showcase the book, often under guise as a staff pick. Those staff favorites at Barnes & Noble, probably paid for. 5. Publishers will create multiple versions of the same book to game the Amazon list. 6. Authors, like Pastor Human Piece of Shoot Mark Driscoll, have been known to use shady marketing firms to literally lie their way onto the bestseller list. 7. Publishers use manipulative category choice to place their books in categories that don't offer much competition, meaning it's easier to become one. Story 53. Water operator. Everyone should be aware of the dangers of forever chemicals in the water. Also, some bacteria are becoming more and more immune to antibiotics. Story 54. Restaurant worker. If you're rude to the wait staff, don't be surprised if your food takes longer. We're not spitting in it, but no one's in a rush. Story 55. Just admitting you're turning in an assignment late because you were at some college party and had a bit too much will generally get you much farther than some tired excuse like your 8th grandma is in the hospital on passing store this semester. We were 1 students too. Story 56. Everything you do online is traceable and fed into advertising platforms. Speaking for myself, I'm aware how much of my anxiety comes from the targeted content, organic by the algorithms, but more insidiously paid content by advertisers. People selling you BS over email or phone know more about your online activity that you think of. ABM platforms, if the user is careless enough online, show me company, username, job title, and when they visited my clients' websites, which products they saw, clicked, sometimes contact info, IP, etc. PS. We advertise on Reddit too. Story 57. The name brand eyewear like Gucci, Versace, and Coach are some of the worst quality. I would never ever recommend them to anyone. Total waste of money. You're paying for the logo. That is it. Also, sometimes if your glasses come back too quickly, we will hold on to them for a few days longer so you think the lab took their time making them. Too quick of a turnaround makes it feel rushed, rarely seen as a good thing. Story 58. Nobody at the vet is in it for the money. The veterinarian is likely the only person in the building making a livable wage. Be kind. Story 59. Hospice, we don't eliminate or assist or do anything to hasten passing. Majority of home hospice PTs improve if over 3 weeks care. Hospice doesn't make much money, more of a community service. Hospice is there to teach all present how best to care for your person. No is always an answer, but guilt lasts forever. Story 60. Yes, some of the workers are undocumented. Yes, they do a lot of the work others will not or cannot do. We also do a lot of the work they will not or cannot do. In our season, they show up at 6 a.m. and leave at 7 p.m. every day of the week. Twice a month, they also cook huge meals for everyone out of their own pocket. Some of us have to hide money in their bags and things to get them to take it. I've watched them make and serve their own food to people in MAGA hats with a smile. I love them, every single one of them. Story 61. Restarting your computer or updating your system solves half of all problems. The next 25 is pure user incompetence that you create yourself, then 10 hardware failure, and the rest is a bug in the program. Story 62. Notaries in most states are not trained and pretty much wing it. If your notary screws up causing you to have the signature notarized again and you end up with a financial loss because of it, you can sue the notary for your loss. Story 63. Old people are just like you and me. They are witty, smart, wise, intimacy, sarcastic, cynical, generous, considerate, patient, frustrated, all that and more. Please treat them with the respect and love you would your best friend, not like a toddler. They may be a little bit deaf or slower to talk than you, but they are not stupid. Oh, and they have a name. It's not dear, love, or darling's their name. Story 64. Your air conditioner rarely needs a full replacement. A lot of private equity has gobbled up many small and locally owned HVAC companies and pushed full replacements because there's more profit on a 10,000 install compared to 500 to replace a fan motor or capacitor. Answer. My husband works in commercial HVAC on the service side, and his employer got bought out recently by a huge corporation. The new leadership has been pressuring them to inflate their service quote margins as much as possible without pissing off the client and offering crazy incentives to techs who consistently upsell small service issues into major projects. Trying to squeeze every cent of profit they can, quality and integrity be darned. Story 65. You could easily do what I do yourself. What you're paying me for is the fact I have the tools, materiel, experience, and truck to haul away the debris. You're welcome. I work in basements and crawl spaces, waterproofing, and foundation repair. Story 66. Hairstylist here. If you always end up with a crooked haircut, no matter how many different salons you go to, you probably just have a crooked head. Never in the history of the human race has there ever been a perfectly symmetrical face. Everyone has one ear or eye that's slightly larger, smaller, higher, lower, bigger, smaller, etc. The difference is that great stylists know how to create the illusion of symmetry. Story 67. Most people that work at a library are library associates. A librarian requires a master's in library science. Also, no, library workers don't even get close to reading all day, if at all. Edit. Typo. Story 68. The nice progressive people you hear on public radio are often operating in a cutthroat cesspool of an environment where low-key hazing is the norm. Story 69. Therapist here. Clients are only supposed to be hospitalized when they pose a clear and present danger to themselves or others. 1. If you're scared to tell a professional how badly you're hurting, start every sentence with, "I'm not going to hurt myself, but it'll ease their nerves and help them focus on how to help you hang on." 2. If you're going to hurt yourself, say so. A short stay in the hospital beats eternity in the grave. Story 70. The number of babies and children taken down and tortured by the boyfriends of the mothers is astonishing. And the things people do are into would make a civilian stay awake all night staring at the ceiling. Story 71. A lot of times in retail, particularly popular beauty brands, when they do a big sale on best-selling favorites or have a brand artist claiming fab products, these are actually products they are having trouble selling. Not all, and not always, but very often. Apologies for punctuation. Had a drink or two after a crappy day at work. Story 72. Not from my current job, but when I was an economist, working for the Department of Housing, and having meetings with Treasury, etc. It was an open secret that ending homelessness, or at the very least all but doing so, was cheaper than not. However, it was deemed political tragic and not dealt with. The two biggest reasons are, it would take a larger upfront investment, but not as much as you'd think I'd be recouped rapidly, and governments are notoriously short-term thinking as they care about the next election, not down the road. So something which gets the biggest results in 4 years is a no-go. Plus, there is a not insignificant but very influential number of voters who will instantly be turned off by it. Giving people something for free is often seen as a negative by many. I didn't get it that easy. I worked for my life, low lives leeching on us hard workers, etc. Even if it actually benefits them too. Reduced homelessness has a significant ROI for governments and needing to spend less later, which means everything is better all around, which benefits everyone. Story 73. Never pay more than your EOB states. If the provider tries to bill you more, get your insurance on the phone and have them three-way call your provider. It's a lot easier to pay the right amount the first time than trying to get a refund from your provider, especially small clinics or the more evil-minded hospital systems. Also, never trust your provider about your insurance coverage. Always confirm with your insurance and then get a call reference number. I used to do so many benefit exceptions for members that got wrong info from us, UHC, and that call reference really streamlines the process. Story 74. Healthcare worker in a hospital setting here. Resident physician. If you go to the emergency department or are hospitalized, call and ask for an itemized bill. It'll make your actual cost lower since there are otherwise a lot of BS fees. You can also ask to speak to a financial advocate. You can negotiate for a lower price or see what financial assistance programs or payment plans you can use. Many hospitals also have hardship waivers. Waivers for a few days of short-term rehab or supply for short-term medications. They also have charity care programs and can offer sliding scale discounts. Regardless of if you have insurance, you can ask about these options. I always share these with patients since I dislike the upcharge with a burning passion. Story 75. In those cremated remains, glass sculptures, and cremation diamonds, almost all of the remains have been burned away, so it's really just the glass. Funeral home worker. Story 76. Anonymous employee surveys aren't really anonymous. I spent almost 50 years in market research. If we really want to know who did that survey badly enough, we can figure it out. Story 77. Truck driver. We can see how close you come to passing every day. So many dumb drivers with near misses. Story 78. I work at a preschool. The requirement to work at some centers is just a pulse. As long as you're an adult who's not on any intimacy offender registry, they'll hire you. My friend's ex-wife is a preschool teacher. She was brought up on DV charges for attacking her ex-husband with a pair of scissors. She still works as a preschool teacher to this day. Google your kids' teachers. Story 79. Cemetery manager. If your cemetery requires you to buy a vault, buy the cheapest one. They all get waterlogged. None are waterproof no matter what they're lined with or coated sealed with. Don't fall for that shoot. Story 80. I can't speak for all hotels, motels. We at the property will not freely cancel a reservation if the date of the reservation is within 72 hours of when you're trying to cancel, like trying to cancel a Saturday reservation on Thursday. However, we will move the date of a reservation as long as it was made directly with us, not through a third party like Booking.com, for free. This is entirely an oversight on our part. I assume most hotels have their shoot together enough to fix this loophole. So just move the reservation out to next week. Okay, now it's more than 72 hours away. Cancel for free. Give it a shot. Story 81. It's not the strangers, drag queens, LGBTQ people that you, or especially kids, need to worry about. It's the men in the family. After working 11 years at a crime lab doing DNA, I don't know if I've come across a kid violation kit with a trans person as the suspect, but there are thousands of them from the dad, stepdad, moms, BF, step, brother, grandpa, ek. If you want to protect kids, start there. So bathroom bills aren't really protecting kids, just diverting attention from actually threats. Story 82. No, really, the internet isn't slow. It's your fudge computer with Haros Hindustan and tabs open in Chrome Edge Firefox. Story 83. A lot of people tend to have a control mentality when working with kids. They expect kids to listen to every command they give. What really works is a comfort mentality. Be genuine with your approach and remember that you cannot control anything besides your own behaviors. If a child does not listen, empathize, and gently remind them of consequences of what they choose to do. Story 84. Most people that work in government agencies are not evil guys in suits discussing how to screw you over in a dark room. They are regular people that happen to be really passionate about a specific field and could be making way more money in the private sector if they wanted to. I wasn't surprised at all at how many government employees rejected Elon Musk's offer to pay them out because they aren't in this for the money, LOL. Story 85. Everything after a question mark in a URL can be removed. It's there to track you. You usually see it when people share a post directly from social media. Story 86. I'm a Chuck E. Cheese repair tech. Please, watch your darn kids. We all have work to do, and while we try to keep everything safe, we are not watching your kids for you. Also, no, we aren't bringing back the animatronics. Most of us dislike the trampoline idea. No, we don't reuse pizza. It would take less effort to just make a new one and more cost-effective to do so. Why bother reusing pizza? We don't sanitize the tokens or the balls ever. Every kid that has picked their nose and scratched their butt got their germs on them. Story 87. Security guard. In an active shooter event, we're not going to protect your jerk. We're heading to the nearest safe exit and calling the cops. Story 88. The federal government is generally made up of people who want to work and serve the public. There's no more waste here than in any other job I've ever been in. Answer. Drives me nuts that we literally have a whole political party that is basically, the government is worthless and evil, elect me and I will prove it. And somehow people keep falling for it. The amount of shoot the USPS alone has put up with for providing an utterly essential service that no private company will ever sufficiently replace is maddening. People act like government workers are lazy as if we don't all go into work in the private sector, seeing lazy management and deadweight workers all over the place. But it is somehow worse when it is publicly funded and not profit motivated. Story 89. I work in clothing at Costco. You know how you grab the shirt from the bottom of the stack because you think it's the cleanest? Sorry, it's not. They move tables around so much that it's very likely the bottom of the stack was the top of the stack yesterday and so on. Story 90. The more famous a film or TV composer is, the less likely they are to actually be the ones writing the music. They often become factories of younger composers, writing cues under the umbrella of the famous composer's name. Story 91. Even though we're technically not supposed to because it would be like making a resident rely on you, a care worker who doesn't have a mention in their care plan whatsoever and legally shouldn't, lots of care workers buy stuff for the residents, namely spare clothes if they came here with nothing, but also hygiene products for the shower or specific brands of biscuits or soups or whatever if they say they're craving to taste it again. LOL, it's frowned upon because our job is to shower and dress them, and we shouldn't have to buy stuff for them, but people do it anyway out of the kindness of their heart. I'm in the camp of, it's okay as long as it's not food, because if it's food, care workers could be messing up a diet plan for the resident without even knowing. Story 92. Poultry industry applies to beef as well. Salmonella is prevalent in chicken throughout their whole life cycle. Good practices can keep it low and make it easier for the processing plants to knock it down to zero or close to it. There is no guarantee that you can buy chicken absolutely 100 free 100 of the time. The consumer must make sure that it has been cooked to a minimum of 165 for a minimum of 15 seconds to eliminate the bacteria. They also must practice safe handling practices so as not to cross-contaminate other cooking or food prep surfaces with raw chicken. Beef is similar with E. coli, but there are different precautions I'm not as familiar with regarding the processing. If the USA would stop getting dumber by the minute regarding science, it could be solved by radiation prior to packaging. But everyone thinks they will sprout a third arm or the like from it. This perception was bad enough prior to 2020 in the COVID pandemic, but now it is exponentially worse because people are not trusting the scientific experts due to scaremongering. Story 93. We, college professors, can tell when a student's had a real passing in the family versus the students who lie to us. We're just not allowed to say anything. Story 94. Most handheld laser pointers aren't tested to verify the power level on the warning label, which means any of them can be very much not eye safe and capable of causing permanent eye damage. Green ones are especially problematic, as green lasers start out as an invisible infrared laser that has a frequency doubling crystal in it that converts the infrared to green. Crappy cheap brands use crappy cheap crystals that don't do a good job of the conversion. So in addition to the green, a lot of infrared also comes out, and they compensate for the crappy crystal by driving the whole thing harder to get the green to the right level, which makes even more infrared come out. So, laser pointers are dangerous, and don't point them so that they can reflect off the floor up at your cat. Story 95. As a teacher, we love students who engage during lessons. Any answer, correct or not, is better than silence. And if we see somebody is trying, it's much harder for us to fail them. If you ever want to pass a difficult subject at school, just come to class, stay active, answer questions. Story 96. Sometimes a kid just isn't smart, and that's perfectly okay. They can still be great at life if they learn to work hard and treat people nicely. Story 97. Most grocery stores will get the same products from the same distributor as other grocery stores. They will send us X's cakes and we just donate them. Story 98. It sounds sexy to be a venture capital investor, but at its core, venture capital is a sales job. You are selling founders on taking your money and selling limited partners on giving you capital to invest in founders. It's all about sales. Story 99. AI was originally developed to make guesses with partial data. So when you ask AI, something is going to make things up. Very hard to fix, if not impossible, unless you're able to give it access to every single thing and every single way of asking for that thing. Story 100. Veterinary professional here. Even after extensive education and many years on the job, we really do make a comparatively poor salary. We're not in it for the money at all. A majority of us are in crazy debt. We're in it because we love animals and medicine and want you to have the best life with your pets. If we didn't care, our industry wouldn't have some of the highest tragic end rates. Pets are a privilege. It's your responsibility to pay for their care and reduce suffering when they get sick, even if that means saying goodbye before you'd like to. Story 101. All the clients who know exactly how my job should be done should just do it themselves. Waiting through all the nonsense you think you know just makes it harder for me to help you. Please be my guest. Represent yourself. Story 102. The U.S.'s education system is far more fudge up than you could ever fear. Every single metric used to measure success is beyond biased. Many students get literally 20 tries to pass the basic tests so as to keep graduation rates looking strong. The standardized tests your state employs have backup tests, and backup tests ready to go just for emergencies. The problem is that those emergencies equate to about a third of the entire student population. But you would never know that because all of the results are lumped together so that there's always lovely pass rates. Since COVID first broke out, I have personally witnessed dozens of students graduate while not being able to spell their own names or tie their own shoes, and I work in one of the most prestigious counties in the country. Whoever teaches in the lowest counties deserves infinite money and praise. Most of these issues are perpetrated by parents who refuse to accept their children's failures. Many others by governmental entities who want to look good and lower standards to do so. And the rest by students who cheat 24/7 and get away with it because teachers have no supported ways of detecting, reporting such things, even though the cheating is insanely obvious. For as to why, see the previous reasons. Even right now, Reddit's spell check is trying to tell me that children's is incorrect. We're so fudge. Story 103. Worked a few professions in my life. Restaurants cut corners wherever possible. Margins are thin and most places will use things right up to and maybe beyond the point of expiration. Any accountant will tell you that every company, no matter what it is, wastes gobs of money of random things, while also penny pinching in equally random ways. Company leadership often hide their shenanigans deep in the back of corporate books. So deep that even if there is strong suspicion that something off, most will be driven mad before finding anything specific. People joke, or are legit paranoid, about the government knowing everything about them. I can assure them that not only is this true, but companies know way more and profit off it. The only comfort I can give is that you, and everyone around you, are average, and there is nothing so special that will make them come after you. Story 104. In many states that rejected Common Core standards for being too woke, confusing, different, the state standards that were used instead to, effectively, appease angry parents are literally just the same standards with the state's name and seal slapped on top of it. The outrage was fake and generated by social media. Those angry about it didn't actually bother to read either set of standards. Story 105. Be sincerely nicer to don't underestimate administrative professionals. We are creative problem solvers, can sniff out BS when it walks in the door. Remember EVERYTHING, and often have a deciding vote as to when, if you make it into important spaces. Story 106. Exercise a lot. Eat fruits, vegetables, and a handful of nuts each day. Don't smoke or drink adult beverage, and I would be irrelevant. Cardiologist. Story 107. Christian clergy here. Many of us don't believe what we are preaching, yet they truly care about the folks they work with. Also, most of them are broke and struggling just to pay bills and survive. Story 108. I work for a company that does software for health plans. All healthcare plan software is equipped with an auto-deny feature, meaning every time you submit a claim, your provider or payer can auto-deny it without even looking at it. 95 have this feature enabled. Story 109. I'm a speech therapist, and we get a lot of work done just by playing and yapping with you or your kid. Story 110. Data analyst for a national clothing and food retailer. We can see every page you visited and for how long. We can even replay your browsing session as a video. It's anonymized to begin with, but if you log in, we know exactly who you are to avoid that don't accept cookies. Story 111. It's not uncommon to admit ER patients for observation, even if it's not necessary. I've been in many hospital board meetings where the CEO told floor staff to, I increase admissions in order to bring in more income for the hospital. What goes on during those meetings are sickening, and one of the leading reasons I left the healthcare field. Story 112. Ex-IRS here. Because of the switch in immigration priorities, they are letting tax evaders slide. I had a case where someone owed over $600K in taxes, and they won't prosecute. Last year, there would have been no question. Story 113. Vinyl records are far less expensive than you think, but only if you're a record store or retail outlet. Distributors will sell records at nearly cost with a suggested MSRP, suggested retail price, that's 30 to 40 more. Story 114. I work in the school office. The school portrait they print and let parents send back the ones they do not want with payment for the ones they do want. You can just keep them all. Many times the office just shreds all the photos for the photo place, and we do not have time to keep track. We just send the check to them. We do not get paid enough to count, and it is not our job. We also do not have time. We honestly will not know if you never send them back. Story 115. Magazines and brands have AI crawlers for Reddit and social media that they use as inspiration to create their content. Not surprising news, I guess, but something to be aware of. Story 116. Being rude to hospitality workers will not get what you want. Will get you talk shoot about by all of the servers, hosts, and kitchen staff for their next year. Story 117. Dog groomers in North America are completely unregulated. Anyone can call themselves a dog groomer and open their own salon. Doesn't matter if they have no training, no experience, or literally dislike animals. Story 118. Calling 911 because you were on hold with non-emergency for 5 minutes doesn't make hold time for either better. The call I had after your fireworks noise, complained with nothing on fire a mile from you. Baby not breathing. Don't worry, that baby died. This really happened with one of my calls. And they were on hold on 911 because meanie like you called 911 because you can't sleep. Story 119. Teacher here. We are so overwhelmed with trying to get test scores. It gets funding. But I promise we just want to teach your kids how to read and math. We aren't trying to indoctrinate anyone either. Story 120. School choice, parents' rights, vouchers, etc. are actually about a decades-long attempt to weaken and ultimately break public education so that privatization can occur and businesses can fully control the elementary, intermediate, and secondary school market. These efforts have gone by different names over the years, but the effort began in earnest during the 1980s. Story 121. The fragile stickers on boxes from USPS don't mean anything. They still get thrown around as much as everything else does. Story 122. Etatui. We are not wizards and we can't possibly know everything about everything. We Google ChatGPT shoot all the time. Our job is really reading comprehension, following directions, lived previous experiences. The more time you are in IT, the easier it is to suss out bullshit. Also, IT magic is real. That thing that happens when something is broken and we walk up to it and it suddenly starts working. Computers can sense when they are near a force that completely disassemble them in 30 minutes or less if we wanted to. One more thing, printers are made by the devil himself. Story 123. Flying in military airplanes isn't as cool or fun as it looks in movies. In real life, Maverick stepped out of that soaked in sweat and looking like a greased rat. But I took him 4 years of college and roughly 2 years of training just to get there. so he's not backing out now. Story 124. I'm a political organizer. The reason you get so overwhelmed with political contacts during election season is because a study showed that the average person needs to be reminded to vote like 11 times before they actually do. But if you can do early voting, once you vote, you probably won't be contacted again unless some team hasn't updated their data. Story 125. Tech support manager at a very big company. 1. When you ask for a supervisor, you are asking for somebody more empowered to say no more forcibly and more empowered to hang up on you. You're far better off with whatever tech rep you've already got. They really are motivated to help you. You don't need their supervisor. 2, if you get an after-call survey with a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being best, be aware that anything other than a 5 is a fail. If you grade them a 4 just because you feel nobody is perfect, it will count in their stats exactly the same as if you gave them a 1. Likewise, if you are also asked about your opinion of the company, that counts against the rep too, since brand protection and recovery is their job. So if they did a great job for you, but you dislike the company and you rate them a 5 and the company a 1, you just failed a survey for them. If the scale is 1-10, then at most companies a 9 or 10 is a success. An 8 is the same as a 1. Story 126. This isn't really hidden, but few people calling in are aware of it. Mortgage lenders don't look at how long you've been gainfully employed. They look at how long you've been employed in the same industry. Example, we had a guy get turned down for a loan because while he made the same amount of money, he'd switched between being a waiter and working in a warehouse. Been making a certain amount for years, but it was about showing stability. Not your loan officer's fault, but it is some BS. Story 127. There's a very good chance the person who cooked your food is on substances, burned out, and tragic end. Story 128. Nuclear plants don't magically create electricity from nuclear reactions. The nuclear fuel interacts to generate heat. Think the burner on a stove. Water travels across the fuel to cool it, in turn, absorbing the heat. Think kettle. Once hot enough, the steam turns a turbine. Think fan. The fan turns the generator to create electricity. Think motor, only backwards. A nuclear reactor is really just a kettle. No magic. Story 129. Go pick up a pair of Chuck Taylors and check out the sole. It's fuzzy. That's because they spray flocking on the bottom in order to have them reclassified as slippers rather than shoes. The tariffs on shoes are some of the highest in existence. Converse found a way around this. The uppers are canvas, and at least 50 of the surface that makes contact with the ground is technically a textile due to the sprayed flocking. So Viola, your shoes are actually slippers and cheaper to import. Story 130. I don't get paid extra for dispensing expensive substances. I don't get a bonus for administering vaccines, COVID or other. Big Pharma doesn't cut me a check. Want to know what's best for your health? Do at least 150 minutes of exercise a week and don't eat so much shoot. Story 131. If you submit a file that was created in Canva to a print shop, you will be universally disliked by everyone in said print shop. Story 132. When your parents are saying they're being ignored, especially when it comes to overnight care, believe them and file a complaint with the state. We cannot do anything without risking getting fired, but the few of us willing to be honest will drop hints that your parents aren't lying or exaggerating. Story 133. Working in behavioral health taught me that if someone grabs and starts choking your neck, all you have to do is grab their thumbs and twist them back. The person will release, and you can basically control them just with the thumbs. If someone or something bites you, then you feed the bite. Push the limb they are biting farther into their mouth will hit the gag reflex and they will stop biting. Story 134. Every day the Postal Service moves over 20 million parcels around the country with a staff of about 500, only 200K of those being actual letter carriers. That's not including every little postcard or advo, the thickness of a hair that touches 25 sets of hands, and numerous vehicles before it gets to your house, without somehow getting lost under a seat cushion along the way. We have a 99.2 success rate on parcel delivery. Nobody thinks about all the hundreds of packages they've received, only that one that got lost that one time. USPS is exceedingly good at what they do, and we do it using only proceeds from stamp sales. We do not receive federal dollars in any capacity so that we can remain stable during political upheavals or budget crisis. 200,000 people hand-deliver 24,000 packages. Double that during peak season. Every single day. I just think that's cool as shoot LOL. Story 135. As a forensic scientist, there is way more crime than the news media lets on. Being able to see how many DNA samples we have come in every day is just astounding. Also, being able to read up on the cases. There are so many bad people out there, hurting other people. It really crushes my soul. Story 136. Abortion pills are available by mail in all 50 states of the U.S., regardless of state laws. There are doctors and legitimate websites that will send pills out, and there are many numbers to call for guidance. Plangpills.org is the best website to find the pills, and abortionpillinfo.org is the best place to learn how to use them. Story 137. No one anywhere in the government or military has any idea what they're doing at the macro level. Want to breach a specific house and arrest the people inside? Right or wrong, we got dudes for that. Want to change society, economy, government yet? Let's hire a bajillion contractors to make slides and then roll the fudge dice. At best. Story 138. Dental lab technician. We make the appliances, crowns, dentures, etc. for dental offices. No, the reason you have to come back in for more impressions isn't because the lab messed up. It's because your dentist, their assistants don't know how to take a decent impression and are quick to pass the buck. Oh, and you're being charged X5 the amount we charge the office for that denture? Story 139. Elementary teacher here. At the elementary level, your kid's going to be promoted to the next grade almost no matter what, even if they get zeros on everything. Story 140. Anesthesiologist here. When we ask you if you do any substances, you can lie all you want, but we will figure it out within about 2 minutes after inducing general anesthesia. Hint, don't lie, we don't care. And it makes it easier if we know in advance. This goes double for chronic THC. Story 141. High school social studies classes in the U.S. are a dumping ground for filling positions with coaches who just put hundreds in for everybody. Hence gestures broadly at the U.S. Story 142. If you're willing to work with a customer service rep and treat them like a human being, they will generally do everything they can to make you happy. You do have to work within the options they have available. You cannot be a toddler throwing a tantrum, demanding the resolution you've decided you deserve without bothering to understand any aspect of the situation other than your own personal desires. Sometimes it is necessary to escalate to resolve your issue. Not always. Give the rep time to try to address it first. If you do need to escalate, be a calm adult. Story 143. I work for UPS. It doesn't matter if your package has fragile written on it or a bunch of stickers saying it. The packages get handled the same way throughout the whole shipping process. The mishandling you don't see is from automated belt sorting that drops and shifts packages, big and small, together across whole warehouses. How I, as a delivery driver, handle your package is the most gentle it has been handled since it was sent from the shipper. If you are shipping it, extra padding and box it tightly and buy insurance. If you are ordering it, hope the shipper does the above. Don't buy TVs or mirrors or paneling or tiles or glass without insurance and expect perfection. Story 144. I work in a city government. There are a lot of great people who are working within constraints that you might not be aware of. Mayor, council, city manager, HR policy, department policy, funding restrictions, city ordinances, etc. It's not that we won't do more. We're usually suffocating in the bureaucracy and aren't allowed to do more. It's effing infuriating. Also, the shoot workers make the rest of us public service employees look awful. I can't stand it and am trying to clean house. Story 145. Many therapists are traumatized by their jobs for one reason or another, and most are terrified of being sued, or worse, losing a client by tragic end. A lot of us make nearly nothing while having a very high level of responsibility and soaking in all of the horrible things that people go through, plus our own stuff, which usually ends up on the back burner. Sure, some therapists suck and the rest of us know that and dislike it, but the jokes about therapists being paid to sit around and pretend to listen really sting sometimes. It's not an easy job. Story 146. Shopping online. Here's a hot insider tip. Add an item to your cart, fill in all the details, and get to the last part and just leave. We will almost always send you an email reminder that your cart still exists. Some online stores will give you a discount code to use to entice you back in. Ignore that one, as there may be an automation set up where you get an even bigger discount code a few days later. If none come within 2 weeks, go get the initial discount. Rinse and repeat for free discount codes up the wazoo. All it takes is some patience. Story 147. We could borrow all the knowledge from science, biology, history, and philosophy, and we are barely scratching surface. We pretend we know what we're doing, but we do not. It's all about try and error to see what it works. Besides all the abstract part of our profession, we do help a lot of people. Story 148. We don't believe your pain is a 10 if you're playing on your phone and giggling like a school kid when we come in the room. Answer. I really don't like this way of looking at things. My DRs have always told me that 10-10 is the most pain that I've ever felt. I literally jumped off a bridge once and was unable to walk and gave it a 7-10 because I didn't know how to communicate that. Though I was in the most pain of my life at the time, how did it compare to something like a gunshot wound? Also, a lot of people are probably using their phones to distract themselves from their pain. Story 149. When a teacher tells you that your child is struggling, either behaviorally or academically, they are asking you to partner with them and actually do work at home with them. Story 150. Never answer questions, never volunteer information, only provide what you are legally obligated to provide, nothing more or less. Story 151. Young children are capable of so much more than adults think. 3-year-olds are the most amazing people in the world. Story 152. Not a secret, but unless you read fine print when you open accounts, you probably don't know. Just because the funds are in your account from a check does not mean it's cleared the other bank. It can take 7-10 business days for the average bad check to return or clear. Story 153. The nurses are recommending what docs need to order, and oftentimes are the ones catching big mistakes in orders. Answer. Since this seems to be the main healthcare comment, doctors do so much paperwork that a decent amount goes home with them every day. Patient messages, insurance denials, etc. all contribute to the substantial burnout among physicians, ESP in primary care. One of City's internal medicine residency programs, resident physicians have graduated medical school, but are undergoing 3-8 years of specialty-specific training, recommends that its graduates do not accept an offer of full-time employment. Because of all the extra work that is, at best, adjacent to actual care, IED FTE is considered to be a sustainable job. None of this is meant to detract from the amazing work of nurses. Nurses run the show. Story 154. Don't ice your cakes the same day you bake it. A lot of the sloppy icing problems I see are often because the cake is too fresh and soft. Not necessarily hot, just not ready to accept frosting. I much prefer to chill a cake overnight, often in the freezer, to let the cake rest. I DK the science of it because I still ice my cakes at room temp, but I don't even crumb coat. 15 years of specialty cake decorating, and the only time I ever crumb coat is particularly difficult red velvet that will get pure white buttercream. And no, a night in the freezer isn't going to make it taste bad. In fact, properly wrapped and stored cakes in the freezer still taste amazing after months. Story 155. I've worked for several labor unions. No one is motivated by collecting dues. We barely talk about it. Nearly everyone I've ever met at work was legitimately trying to help people secure a better life. Story 156. Veterinary medicine, the cost to run a veterinary hospital is insane, and vets aren't paid that much. Techs are paid a laughable wage. The insane prices people complain about aren't lining pockets of vets. Much of it goes towards overhead cost. You wouldn't believe the cost of blood work machines, x-ray machines, the cost of all the syringes and cleaning chemicals, and amount of labor, dental machines, surgical supplies, specialized surgical table, medications, etc. Story 157. Generic and name brand medications are not the same. They only contain the same active ingredient. Some companies care a lot about the quality of their generic. Others don't, get consistent results, and do not care. Story 158. People always give backstories to librarians. We don't care. Just tell us what you need. Edit. Sometimes the backstory helps for reference questions. I meant more in times of here's why I'm returning the book late. I don't care. We don't have fines. Just return it. Story 159. Toothpaste is basically an accessory. Teeth are cleaned by mechanical scrubbing. Sure, fluoride is beneficial, but the surfactants in toothpaste that bubble up really don't do shoot. If anything, they mask how much plaque is still left on your teeth after about a minute of brushing. If you really want to have clean teeth, skip the toothpaste until your teeth are squeaky clean. That takes at least 2 minutes of methodical brushing, and then go back in with toothpaste after to get the benefits from fluoride and that minty, fresh feeling. Don't even get me started on how y'all need to be flossing. Dental hygienist, all I know is cleaning teeth. Story 160. Payroll lady here. We know everything about everyone. We have all of your personal data at our fingertips, and even your families. We see what you expense when you travel, your child support, garnishments, etc. But confidentiality is our #1 priority, along with protecting your data. Typically, not even the C-suite has the access that I do. And I don't share anything with anyone except for HR, and then only certain HR people. Sometimes I'm the first to know about terribly sad things. I will keep all of your secrets and make sure to pay you on time and without error. We're often overlooked in the workplace, and that's fine with me. Nobody needs to know what I do. Story 161. Esthetician here. The reason we say don't do that at home, let me do it the professional way, is because we have, in fact, done that at home instead of doing it the professional way, and it did not go well. I promise you, I genuinely am not trying to sell you something. I am trying to help you not ruin your skin, go blind, give yourself an infection. Because I have, and it sucked. Story 162. Investigators, with only a few exceptions, follow the evidence. They don't reverse engineer claims. Also, trust me on this, the government isn't some singular thing. It is many separate agencies made up of people just like you and me and doing the best with what they have. Republicans consistently slash government funding and then blames those same agencies when they don't heroically save the day. Can you make that make sense? Story 163. Consulting is a scam. 25-year-olds out of MBA, they know fudge all. Only skill they have is to talk mad shoot and Microsoft Office. Story 164. Many authors have bought their way onto bestseller lists, especially NYT. If they're a politician or famous person, or a very prolific author, James Patterson Co., chances are they paid for the slot or basically bought out the first print run. Similarly, bestsellers are just that, bestsellers. It doesn't mean they're actually good or that people actually read them, LOL. Story 165. Clinical trials for cancer sometimes result in hyperprogression. It accelerates the cancer growth. These are trials for substances that have sometimes never been tested in humans, and sometimes our best guesses based on the chemical pathways in science is just wrong. Face. Thank you for watching the video all the way to the end. If you'd like to see more content like this, you might be interested to know that I've created another channel with a similar theme, especially for those of you who enjoy what I do. I'll leave a link in the description, and I hope to see you there. Take care.